Abusia yeni komo ewo channel so IGH Politics Avenue. Political story set training because big headlines na jembre de EDB exum ewo ha ni di ahon braximum bestroke say yemo embra yin simu. Ma me man wo remfise obetimi leave comment constructively under the comment session. Na any di ma yanko yensam so. Na legal practitioner was signed a professor Emma University of Ghana, Professor Kwadwo Apiaji Etua, and then watching Dinti Potia, Mami Torkonoos, Ameno Kasei, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, a unit was Yakunya, say Sijino, won't Timmy ensign enco a Supreme Court or ensign enco some emo minor, say obey a Timoa at the Ama Supreme Court. What in some who do be brave, egu and a quema, unya, who be here say, dearco, and dear bar, and a magic bra, may be exum war, and idiom braximum, Mr. Oxayum rain simum, a brapapi ademre, now, obo in church the moon.
Torkonoos returned to Supreme Court impractical, says Apiaji Ayachua online. A law professor at the University of Ghana, Professor Kwadwo Apiaji Ayachua, says former Chief Justice Gertrude Torkonoos may find it nearly impossible to return to the Supreme Court despite having the legal right to do so. This follows her judicial review application challenging her removal from the bench, which coincided with her dismissal as head of the judiciary. She insists the president overstepped his authority and violated constitutional provisions on the removal of Superior Court judges. Professor Apiaji Ayachua admitted her case has legal weight but argued the situation exposes flaws in the Constitution. It spells out why there's a need to amend Article 146 because as it is now, I see a loophole, and that loophole is that you can be a Chief Justice, you are removed, but you can remain as a Supreme Court judge. He cautioned that even if the law permits her reinstatement, the reality could be fraught with difficulty. In that sense, the practicality is that there has been a toxic environment created, most of the decisions are made against her. How is she going to relate to her colleagues who made those decisions against her? That is where the gap is. I think that in practical terms, it may be difficult for her to come back, but in terms of law, she has the right to go there. Related to this story, I'll support a call for the
Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. It's good to have you here, Nana Bafo, on the news deck. Now, let us understand, what is your stance basically concerning the decision by the Foreign Affairs Minister?
Thank you very much for having me on your program. My position is that, and the position of the minority is that Article 75 of the Constitution has been breached. It is clear that following the determination of the Supreme Court in the case of Henry Nana Boakye and Margaret Bamfo versus the Attorney General, it was established that any international agreement or treaty, including but not limited to MOUs, should be submitted to Parliament for parliamentary approval. And so once it has not been done, which the minister has admitted, then the Constitution has been breached. And it's a very unfortunate happening, given the actors involved in this matter. You have the current Attorney General, who at the time was the Deputy Attorney General, and had personal conduct of the matter when he went to the Supreme Court. You have President Mahama, who at the time had failed to comply with Article 75 in respect of the Guantanamo Bay matter, for which the matter was sent to the Supreme Court. So when you have all these actors involved, we were hoping that there would not be a repetition of the matter. Once there's a repetition of the matter, you can only say it's an unfortunate situation. It ought not to have happened, but it is happening. It has happened. And it's a very sad situation that the respect that ought to be given to the Constitution is not being given.
In the light of your stance, are you saying basically that indeed he has flouted the Constitution, and what was the appropriate direction that should have gone before he coming out to voice those particular decisions? He said that indeed there have been over 40 MOUs on his decks, and he seems to is working within his mandate.
It doesn't change the fact that the Constitution has been breached. The fact that yesterday somebody chose not to send an MOU, whether or not it is true, it's another thing altogether. Because, I mean, it's sometimes difficult to take what Mr. Okudzeto Ablakwa says, hook, line, and sinker. Sometimes you need to make sure it is worthy of credit, right? But as we speak, we don't know of any MOU which has not been sent to Parliament. We don't know. But even if there is, it doesn't change the fact that the Constitution has been breached.
Interesting. Now, I want to get from you, because he also said that these have been sent to the Attorney General, and also there has been review by Cabinet as well. Does that necessarily give response to this assertion?
No. Again, it doesn't change the fact that the Constitution has been breached, and it even makes it worse. As I said, this is the reoccurrence. It's a playback of what happened in respect of the Guantanamo Bay matter. It's a playback, except that we have not all the actors are in this. In fact, the only actors who are not in this are the Gitmo detainees. But almost all the actors are involved in this matter. You have the United States of America being involved. You have President Mahama, who was the president at the time the Guantanamo Bay Agreement was signed. And then you have Mr. Dominic Ayeni, Dr. Dominic Ayeni, who was the Deputy Attorney General at the time. And so they couldn't have missed that. And therefore, when there has been a discussion of the sort on the subject at Cabinet, then it should have occurred to somebody that it required parliamentary approval. For them to have considered or thought that it doesn't require parliamentary approval, requires serious consideration. In any event, the NDC has two-thirds majority in Parliament. And so why is it that it wasn't taken to Parliament? It also speaks to a certain attitude to governance, which is a certain laissez-faire, or, somebody trying to be quite lax, in the approach to governance. So it speaks to their approach to governance too.
Mr. Bawumia, I want to get a certain context from you as well. The minister said this decision was basically based on humanitarian grounds and not necessarily receiving any benefit from the United States due to the acceptance basically of humanitarians, of deportees from the U.S. And he also reiterated that hopefully the coming week there are going to be about 40 African deportees from the U.S. into Ghana. What do you make of this whole scenario?
Making decisions based on humanitarian grounds may be godly. However, it cannot override the need to comply with due process of law. And so it is no excuse. The countries where these persons may be coming from are countries that are equally peaceful as Ghana. Nothing stops them from being taken to their countries. Look, that even having been said, right, the sort of obligation being placed on Ghana, what is the nature of it? Are we able to contain or accommodate that obligation? That obligation potentially may outlive President Mahama. Will a future government be ready to accommodate it? Which is why there's the necessity for it to go to Parliament, so that by being given parliamentary approval, it is acknowledged that it is an obligation which the people of Ghana, through their representatives, have agreed to take upon themselves. That is the philosophy behind it. And so if you sit down as a minister or as a government, discuss matters at Cabinet, and then proceed with it, okay, the fundamental question will be in future what happens.
All right, I want to get from you also, if the minister had not based his decision on humanitarian grounds, which other approach would have been quite legitimate for him to possibly accept? And would there have been any reputational damage or risks that at the moment Ghana may be associating themselves with this particular development from the U.S.?
The question will be, what reputational damage are we referring to? The United States of America, we suffer reputational damage in respect of the United States of America. Don't forget the United States of America is a democratic country set up by law. They also respect their laws. And I don't think United States of America will have a problem with Ghana saying it has to comply with its laws. In fact, it will be very surprising that the United States of America will think that Ghanaian law can be suspended just to accommodate their interests. Humanitarian-wise, the United States is not at war. It's not at war, right? It's a very peaceful country, more resourceful. It's most people's dream to be in the United States of America. And so where is the humanitarian basis? Where is the humanitarian basis? Why would the U.S. want to return them at all costs? We've heard President Donald Trump frequently alluded to the fact that they are deporting criminals from their country. And so what sort of people are being brought to Ghana? Because if President Trump cannot accommodate criminals, right? Because that is what President Trump constantly says, that these people are criminals. They are deporting criminals who are, becoming a problem for the peace, safety, and security of the people, of the nationals of America or residents of America. Then why should it be Ghana taking these people on humanitarian grounds?
All right. Finally, I think that we need
to you see, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Okujeto-Ablakwa, I think President Mahama would have to take a critical look at the way he's handling himself, right? Because it is not just this. Even some comments he's making against some traditional allies of Ghana, it's as though he's setting down or he intends to put together a new foreign policy for Ghana, right, which might not be beneficial to the interest of this country. I'm not going to comment on it.
All right.
But in terms of the legal side of it, where is the humanitarianism in this? That somebody thinks that someone is a criminal, in his country. The presence of that person doesn't inure to the safety, security of the people of his country.
All right.
But you think it is humanitarianism.
I think that point is well reiterated here on the news desk. Thank you very much, Nana J. Bafo Iwab. He's a lawyer NMP for Minshill South and also a member of Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, speaking to us here on News Deck. Now, moving on to other development, the Ankobra River is dying and the government says it's war. After witnessing firsthand the shocking extent of pollution, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister has announced that a permanent military base will be stationed along the river to stop illegal miners and protect one of Ghana's most vital water bodies. Correspondent Inakia Kwansa has more in this report.
Pristia to Sangoma, where the Ankobra River stretches, is 190 kilometers. For the past 3.5 months, our main concentration has been on the land and then on the river. But I want to stress that our interest is on water bodies and forest reserve. We've done a lot of operation on the land and we have shifted now on the river.
What was meant to be an hour canoe ride on the Ankobra River turned into more than two, a journey that revealed the scars of illegal mining deep on the Ankobra River. The Land and Natural Resource Minister Emmanuel Ama Kofi joined the Western Region Security Council on Thursday to inspect Galamsey activities at first hand along the Ankobra River. Instead of a clear water, the river flowed thick and milky brown. Just minutes into the journey, the team encountered a Galamsey makeshift hub made of wooden and plastic structures, known as Chinese Town. Now, a Galamsey hub carved out of what was once a cocoa farmland. Women and children were left behind as miners fled at the sight of the delegation.
You see all this crowd right here. Nobody is planting any food. Everybody here is focused on destroying the water.
Further upstream, devastation spread wider. Hundreds of chamfans clogged the river. Pumps, pipes, and heap of sand lined the banks like monuments to destruction. So behind me is a pit dug by these illegal miners. Just few minutes walk from the Ankobra River. This is to remind us that this war is not something that we should just be playing around with.
Did you burn the excavators? Okay.
Why can't they replace it?
The people who are doing this have declared war on the people of Ghana, period. They are not simply looking for gold. They've decided to completely decimate the Ankobra River. And they don't care what happens to anybody else. I think this is one more reason why we have to put our money where our mouth is. And I hope I can bring the Minister of Finance, my good friend, here to understand that we need to mobilize all the security forces to stay here permanently because we are at war.
The minister hinted at plans to expand the current 100-meter buffer zone along river banks to 1 kilometer.
Yes, we are going straight to a conversation on the back of this, and we are being joined by the Media Relations Officer with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Pakwesi Shandov. Now, Pakwesi, it's good to have you here with us. I want to understand from you, how serious is the pollution of the Ankobra River, and what exactly did the minister see?
Well, the extent of devastation was one that could be described as profoundly horrible because, like the reports by Natalia Kwanzaa clearly indicated, what ordinarily was supposed to have been a clear passage of water was rather discolored and heavily filled with, of course, the proceeds from illegal mining activities. The minister witnessed it, and as always, he expressed his displeasure rather remarkably. And so what we are doing, or we're going to do to ensure that we're able to deal decisively with that situation is essentially what the minister clearly indicated, that now, effective now, there ought to be an instructive deployment of military personnel in a surveillance that would be uninterrupted. That is to say that they will stay there unabated until such a time when we can confidently say that we've been able to deal decisively with that particular situation.
So we see a firefighting approach to this particular issue where the military goes there and they will eventually withdrawn subsequently. What is the assurance that such a decision will not happen again, basically based on what the minister lamented about?
I'm not sure about the withdrawal of any military personnel under this particular dispensation. Indeed, nobody in the military previously deployed has been withdrawn in this period of the government's administration. Maybe you are referring to a development that happened in the NPP's administration. But as of now, in this current dispensation, there has never been anything of that sort. And that is because of government's commitment to dealing with the menace of illegal mining. What is going to happen now, like I have earlier indicated, is that there's going to be a full-fledged, uninterrupted combative deployment to not only the Ankobra River, but indeed across all the 44 forest reserves in the country. Because clearly, Winston, from what we have observed, we are dealing with a breed of miners who are extremely recalcitrant and obstinate. And I mean, you understand the local Ghana language better, and so I'm sure I could import this proverb that is often said that shitoni nawa, shitoni josan, loni josan, sorry, shitoni nawa, na keyo. To wit, if a fish has a very uncomfortable odor, you are best eating it with pepper.
We ain't some who team course or channel so, Mamma so dear Ewa, the Sene, so bad, you know, Eddie Adumbi Edomania, on your in Shammy, 9 sign and some more question so cry. Ah, AGH Politics Avenue.